I was the crew leader for a major armored truck company for 5 years. IAmA. What's the pay and benefits like? 401k sucks. No company matching, health insurance is an HSA plan. You pay the first $2,200 out of pocket. Then they cover 80%. Life insurance has an added clause stating that if you perish while performing duties and you weren't following any company policy, your family won't be paid out. An example of this would be requesting a company-issued bulletproof vest and being fatally shot not wearing it. The dental insurance was actually better than my new full-time job. What if you literally are going to crap your pants? Can you run into a local Starbucks and leave the truck undermanned? Or once you're in, you're in? I operated a 3-man crew. One officer had to have direct control at all times. That was my truck rule: once you're in, you're in. However, our policy was updated shortly before I left to allow solo trucks. Trucks with a ton of cameras inside and out, as well as a mandatory panic button you wore around your neck. Edit: solo trucks being defined as a crew of one officer that drove and left the truck to collect money. My friend was killed by a Brinks truck when it turned right and rolled over her and her bike. How common are accidents with armored trucks? This question absolutely hits a very sensitive nerve with me. I take medication because of these two stories. During late 2017, my crew and I witnessed another armored truck company slide through an intersection and T-bone a small truck similar to a Ford Ranger. The elderly woman driving the small truck died at the scene. I took a picture as it happened because I knew law enforcement would ask around and find out that another armored company witnessed it. Here is that picture. https://imgur.com/c0g5nsj. My last story is pretty personal. Before I met my wife, happily married and blessed with a 1-month-old son, I was in a serious relationship with another crew leader. This was kept very quiet because the rules for relationships were very strict. Most people kinda knew because both of us would roll into the parking lot at the same time nearly every morning. Anyways, I believe this to be early fall of 2015. It was business as usual. We rolled into the parking lot, pretended to hate each other in front of the other officers, load our trucks up and go our separate ways. She had a new hire driving for her. This new hire had all the pre-existing symptoms of undiagnosed sleep apnea, and other crew leaders had reported him falling asleep behind the wheel on extended drives between contracts. During this transit, 90 minutes between contracts, the new hire fell asleep behind the wheel and rear-ended a semi-truck at 65 miles per hour. The semi was fully loaded, so gross weight of 65,000 to 80,000 pounds? The impact was so forceful that my significant other's seatbelt buckle snapped. The seatbelt flung to the side and she hit the bulkhead door at 65 miles per hour. The bulkhead door is a heavy door that separates the front cab to the rear. It locks open while in transit and stays closed while sitting on site. This is due to the side door the messenger uses to climb in out of the truck. My route was running late that day. After we cleared my truck of all liability and parked it, I sent her a text message that went unanswered. Then, a phone call that went straight to voicemail. While sitting in my car, that's when I saw the tow truck, and it was her armored truck on the flatbed. In disbelief, I waited for the tow truck to drop it in the back corner of the parking lot. That's when my supervisor walked over to me, handed me some disposable gloves, and we spent 2 hours bleaching the entire rear of the armored truck. The insurance company refused to determine if the truck was totaled or not until all the blood was removed. I still have nightmares and I can't seem to reconnect with her due to the event. Here is the pictures of what I think Reddit will allow. The truck was totaled. The driver survived, was fired, and she was airlifted to the closest hospital with multiple skull fractures, broken collarbones, broken ribs, wrist, and left arm. The only reason she didn't die is because the entire crash was so abrupt, she had zero time to react. She was honorably discharged from the military, became one of our dispatchers, but soon quit and faded from existence. The last I heard, she moved to a different state. Private security supervisor here. From what I've heard, armored is basically the absolute worst in our world. Insane and inconsistent hours, ridiculous qualifications needed. In my state in the USA, you take the same courses/quals as police officers for armed guard jobs, and low pay considering all involved. Would you consider my assessment of armored work accurate? You, sir, have done your homework. Something you may not know is how our hours work. Garda Corporate has determined that any crew operating an armored truck over 9,000 would be classified as a truck driver. Therefore, our overtime started at 50 hours. It was a way for a corporate to cut corners on their budget. What was the most sad was that all of the class action lawsuits filed against Garda were dragged out and settled for pennies and the dollar. I've always wanted to know how close I came to dying. So, I worked for an appliance company that had about 20 delivery trucks on the road every day. I received the trucks at the end of the route. Despite credit cards existing, we'd collect tens of thousands in cash every day. During peak season, end of June, they would double the weekly pickups because the massive safe was too full. The process was that we would leave our little cage/room, and the Garda guys would open safe and collect. One guy stayed in the truck, one guy waited by the door outside and the other guy went inside. The building's exit had a double door. I was very used to guy waiting outside. However, on this occasion, he was between the doors. Without knowing he was there, I kicked the door open and it nailed him. He swung around and pointed a shotgun at me, before realizing I wasn't a threat and he backed off. I was extremely apologetic and had just shat myself. So, how close did I come to dying? I laugh about it now, but who knows? You probably flirted with the Grim Reaper a little bit. I miss the days that we were able to carry shotguns. It certainly made the job more safe. One of the biggest things drilled into our head, at least my Garda teacher, was to constantly assess the situation. I'm actually surprised you were able to startle him. Thanks for sharing that story. How often did things get sketchy? Only a handful over 5 years, or frequently? If frequently, how so? Every few weeks/months? Good question. I'd say at least once per week. Typically it was a homeless man trying to get some cash. What's your armament situation look like? I have a 16-gun safe. A few shotguns, R15s, R10, and a SHT ton of pistols. Were you ever tempted? If not tempted, was there ever a "this is how I do it" banter with your crew? Ha! Yes. Typically if a bank order a sustainable amount of high-value bills, I would turn and ask my messenger if today was the day for a trip to Mexico, smiley face. Excellent timing. I am a co-founder of a special events security company, and this question came up in our meeting this weekend. For legal cannabis operations, do they utilize armored truck service to transport their products from distribution centers to retail stores? We have been thinking of entering the cannabis space, and wondered about this specific question. Thanks. Medical marijuana is a commodity. I wouldn't see a problem with it being transported. But only when it's federally legal for recreational purposes. There may be some legal issues with the quantity and if it's being transported with armed security. Is it true your coworkers are more likely to shoot you than a random robber? I've been told that 9/10 times it will be an inside job. Does that get awkward? Not awkward, it gets scary. If they're an employee that's been with the company for less than 2 years, I was always on edge. What would freak me out is when one of my other 2 crew members called of sick, we would get a new person. When that new person starts taking wrong turns while you're in the passenger seat next to him. That's a rest your hand on your gun moment. Co-workers on different routes called me paranoid, but I adopted a 3-strike rule. At any point during the day, if a new drive took 3 wrong turns, with clear verbal command, we returned to our branch to fill out an incident report. It would put us a couple hours behind schedule, but I'm a firm believer in a paper trail. What's the best way into the industry? I have trouble finding listings on like Indeed and other sites. Is there some other way to search for these types of jobs specifically? You're absolutely f***ing crazy to even consider this industry as a career. It's honestly a dead-end job that quite possibly will kill you. Could you live with that? However, the experiences I've had and the other officers I shared hardship with will stay with me for the rest of my life. We truly are a brotherhood. One of my crew members signed me and my wife's marriage certificate. I honestly would take a bullet in the head for my crew and others I've worked with. The best place honestly is Google, or the website painted into the side of the trucks. Do not walk up to an armored truck and ask where to apply. I've personally taken their name down on paper, and thrown their application into the trash. Camaro or Mustang? Neither. Ford Flex EcoBoost. I knew someone who worked on an armored truck and he said it was common to piss in a bottle in order to complete your route faster. True in your experience, or did he work for a shoddy employer? Both. But I would absolutely do everything in my power to not piss in a bottle. I don't think people really understand how much pressure is put onto a truck crew to finish faster than the day before. I know that TV and movies show armored cars as moving jackpots that can get held up easily. Have you ever seen a show or movie that portrayed how tough an armored car really is? Believe it or not, I've never watched any movies depicting armored truck operations. I think movies would be very one-sided anyways because the profession is supposed to look cool. Did you have decoy trucks, empty trucks just in case someone attacks? All of our trucks are decoy trucks. Only the truck crews know what's inside. One of my buddies works for a company that rhymes with tranks, and we were watching a dude fill the cheesy ATM at our hockey arena. He was this huge ducking guy, trench coat, and a duffel bag full of cash working alone. My bud was appalled. Do you have any idea how these less reputable operations work? Is he some kind of Rambo, or are they just willing to roll the dice with his life and cash? I think as an industry as a whole, the turnover rate is so high that they just want bodies with driver licenses.